Insights after 5 years of being sober. Let's talk about it. 5 years of being sober. You know, to some people, 5 days, 5 hours being sober is something that seems nearly impossible. And believe me, I was there. You know, I was addicted to various substances, and I became addicted young. By the time I was 11, I was already introduced to porn. By the time I was maybe even younger than that, maybe like 10. And in fact, by the time I was like 3 or 4, I was already I had already witnessed scenes in like soap operas that my mom or her friends or my caretakers would watch. Very passionate love scenes with a lot of making out and things like that. That's nothing for a 3 or 4-year-old to be watching, you know. So by 15, I was already smoking weed, right? By 17, I was a full-blown just addict. And it's not that I was doing it every day, but was I doing everything in my power to do it every day. You know, and to some people it may be like, oh, but that's just weed, that's nothing. Like, no, every addiction has their thing. It's not good to be addicted to anything in general, right? Because out of addiction comes obsession, and out of obsession really comes a level of disregard for your limits, your boundaries with yourself, first and foremost, right? For example, overworking, right? And which was one of my later addictions that after being a few years sober, overworking just became the other addiction. Now, thankfully, I think that's much better than being lazy. But overworking has I've just very recently broken that spell. And it wasn't even intentional. It was due to, I'll say, a really rough situation that I went through in the summer, right? Summer 2025, excuse me. That forced me to rest. It forced me to not go to the gym after being consistent for several years. It forced me to eat just one meal that day. It forced me to sleep 10, 12, 14 hours a day, right? We're talking like 8 to 10 hours at night, and then 2 to 3 naps throughout the day. I mean, it really did a number on me. And I had no idea that I could need that much rest. In hindsight, of course I did. I'd never really taken an intentional day off like I'm doing now. So that's one of the things I would really recommend to you. Believe me, this is coming from a overworker, right? Some of you may feel like, oh, I don't make enough money to have a day off, or you feel like you've romanticized the thought of, you know, no days off, all grind, no sleep. Man, that's unsustainable. Not only is it unsustainable, but it's very inconsiderate, right? Even if it was sustainable, right? Because many people can sustain an overworked pace for years, right? Just look at your nearest parent, right? Your nearest school teacher. Your nearest school teacher who is also a parent. Like, The list can go on and on. Nurses, things like that. People can sustain that overwork for years. But it's not worth it. Your body breaks down, and even if your body doesn't break down, like, you see, I got into the best physical shape of my life while I was really overworking. But my emotional well-being was terrible. My psychological self-image, right? What I thought of myself to be was trash. It was trash, and it wasn't until I really went through what I went through in the summer of 2025, right? Which at the time of recording this video, that was just like a month or two ago. You know, we're still in summer, right? I think today is September 11th, or September 12th, 2025. But yeah, it wasn't until I went through what I went through and saw that my body wasn't playing with me anymore. It took that opportunity to be like, no, we're not making any music. We're not making any videos. We're not reading any books, right? You're gonna go to work, and while you're at work, you're going to be taking as many naps as you could. And which wasn't many, by the way. It was mostly just me falling asleep right at my computer, but then never mind, I'll save you the details just in case anyone from my job is watching. But then right after work, as soon as I clock out, right back to bed. You know, I'm here to tell you that there is a work-life balance possible for you. I used to consume a lot of content that said, if you really want to be successful, if you really want to change your life, you are not going to live a balanced life. And to some extent, I do agree. If we're talking about the type of balanced life that worker drones refer to, right? By worker drones, I mean people who are happy being somebody's employee. Not that you can't be happy being someone's employee, but you don't mind working a day job that you don't actually care about for the next 40 years of your life. Like, that to you is just, it's just like, it is what it is. That's it. I'm talking to the people who have always had, or maybe you've just developed, a deeply seated disdain at the mere thought of spending even the next few years at a day job, right? 5 years at a day job seems way too long. Way too long. But to others, the next 15, 20, 30 years, they're content because they only care about going to work, coming back, and then distracting themselves until they go to sleep so that they can do it again, right? So if we're talking that work-life balance where you're a worker drone by day and you're a couch potato by night, yeah, then no, you can't have that work-life balance. Maybe once you get to a certain level in your finances, perhaps you can. But to me, the work-life balance I'm referring to is working a reasonable amount, which is usually just a few hours a day, at something you actually love doing that you know you will be generating income from. But then, very recently, taking about 1 day off per week. Now, off doesn't mean that you just lay in bed the entire time. I mean, I guess it could mean that. But mostly it's, what do you need to catch up on? Right? What do you need to catch up on? For most of us, that catching up is sleep. You need to catch up on some sleep. That's the very first thing that I started doing more of during my off days. Instead of pushing through, right? We all know that feeling of, oh, I need a nap, but I need to push through because it's just Tuesday and I just clocked in 2 hours ago and I have another 6 hours to go. So I'm going to push through and, intoxicate myself with whatever it is I need to do, whether it be just social media distraction or too much coffee or whatever, so that I can get through the day. But on my off day, I'm like, listen, if I want a nap, I'm going right to the couch or right to my bed and taking a nap for as long as I feel like taking. And then when I wake up, I think the only thing I try to do still normal is just my meal times, right? I try to eat at around the same time, give or take an hour or two. Maybe even add a meal, right? I usually only eat twice a day, but lately I've been trying to gain weight, about another 10 pounds, so I've been adding a third meal here and there. I kind of forgot really the main topic of the video, but the main concern is that yeah, I definitely forgot the main topic of the video. But I'll say this. Our collective, right? The people who are tuning into this video because we resonate with the message. I want you to know that you can trust God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, to provide for you, to take care of what you need to take care of, even if you take a day off. I have a feeling like this video wasn't even about taking a day off, but I guess that's where we ended up. Take a day off. You can start with taking an evening off, right? But I mean off. Like off. If you usually just, lay in bed watching TV every single evening, then clearly you're not doing anything different by doing that on your off day or off evening, right? The best thing I recommend is to sleep. The next best thing is kind of like sleep, is to meditate. And by meditate, sometimes I just sit on my couch and look at the ceiling. And you know what? That is so much better than Netflix. So much better than Netflix. I feel like I gain so much insight. My body replenishes so well from just exactly what you're seeing me do right now. And just look at where I want to look. If I need to stretch, take a sip of water, lay back down. And just really feel. How many of us, when was the last time you actually really felt how your body felt? Yeah, the gym can help, stretching can help, martial arts can help. I do all of those. But I've been doing them for many years, and let me tell you, it wasn't until I actually started taking time off intentionally that I actually started feeling what my body felt. Which, even up until this point, is exhaustion. You know, it's quite remarkable just how much exhaustion the body puts up with, especially if, you know, we consume a lot of content. I still consume a lot of content, usually YouTube content. I try to have it be insightful and not just like entertainment, but I do consume a lot of content. And then add a day job to it, and then add gym, training, that. So the body actually deals with so much. But because we are in a capitalistic society that is still promoting hustle culture, right? And if you're not rich, that means you haven't hustled hard enough, bro. That's the reigning mentality, right? Thankfully, if you're part of this collective, I think you've either recently or starting to get the hint that life, you know, to wait until you're a multimillionaire to take a day off or to take an evening off, again, is foolish, is inconsiderate, and it's also, how realistic is that? You're very clearly showing your body that you're acting from a place of desperation, which, if you've studied anything about manifesting, you know that desperation usually is not a very good vibration to hold if you want to bring something into your reality. So it's much better to, let's say, go hard 5-6 days a week. We'll say 6. Go hard. Make an intentional, concerted effort to get everything that you need to get done. But then that 7th day, whenever that day may be for you, you are very intentional about resting. You do the things that replenish you. You eat that extra meal, that extra piece of steak, or that extra salad. You have a little dessert, right? If you're on point, like I am, rarely ever have dessert, eat the same meals every single day, then a dessert is just a dessert. It's fine. It's not gonna do anything, really. You know, but satisfy you, right? But take things step by step. That may not be for everybody, right? If you have an issue with your sweet tooth, then probably dessert is not something you want to actually make a regular practice. But with that said, I am very tired. It's past midnight. It's 12:30. I'm in Miami Beach. It's September, I think, 12, 2025. And wow, what a time to be alive. You know, I've become so grateful at just the experience that I've been able to cultivate within myself, right? And what I mean is, I finally feel like the lessons that have been recurring for the last decade, 15 years even, I'm finally integrating them into my body to the point where my body is feeling very safe and very trusting of me to be like, okay, we don't need to keep repeating this lesson. You know, I think we got it now. And a great practice that has helped me is being intentional with taking a rest day, right? So with that said, I do hope things continue to improve for you. Remember, you are luminous. You are indeed luminous. And I look forward to sharing something else with you very soon.